Hey guys, welcome to video 2. In this video, we're going to go over some of the answers, and I'll show you how Mrs. Smith completed the assignment. Yours may not look exactly like mine. That's okay. I just wanted to give you a chance to see how I would have completed it, and you can use some of mine to fill in your answers, and otherwise, you can just enjoy this silly video. Okay, so before you move on, remember the answers are coming up next. So if you haven't tried it on your own, please go back to the instructions video, try this on your own, and then come back to this one so that you can complete it and you'll be able to see how I did it. All right, here we go. Okay, so one of the first things I asked you to do was to find the answers to the questions at the bottom as you're reading. Now, what I realized when I was looking for the answer to question 1, the author's purpose, that's really the entire paragraph. So I didn't number that one, but what I did was I looked for things that were similar. Now, for question 2, to look back at the text and explain why Earth has the nickname the blue planet, I marked a number 2 where I found those wordings, that wording, the blue planet. And then number 3, write what you learned about the size of Earth. And you can see here, then I have the number 3 right next to that. All right. It also asks us to highlight in yellow new words. So what I did was, one of the other things I'd like you to do is you didn't have to. So you can see here that what I did was I highlighted on what I felt was interesting. And so one of the things I feel is that is interesting is that the Earth orbits around the sun and that it tilts very slightly and gives us the seasons. So that's something that I want to know more about. How does this tilt give us seasons? Okay, so then the next part, remember we had to highlight all of the word Earth in blue. You can see that I did that. Hold on one second. Okay, so let's go through and answer some of these questions now. So if we go to question 1, the way that I answered it, and I'm going to get a little bit closer so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, the way I answered this question was I started with the author wants the reader to learn facts about Earth. And that tells us basically what the author wanted. There's so many facts included that he or she really wants us to know about the Earth. Then if we look back at number 2, and you can see up here where I circled the blue planet because of how blue it looks from space. It gets the blue color because Earth is covered in 70% water. So now I'm going to go down to the bottom. There we go. And I'm going to answer this question. Earth is called the blue planet because from space you can see that it is that 70% of Earth is water. Okay, and then for number 3, scroll up for just a second, we can see that the Earth is larger than Mercury, Venus, and Mars. So they kind of tricked us. They didn't use the word size, but they did discuss this term called larger, which is the adjective which describes size. And so down here I can write, Earth is larger than what 3 planets, first grade? Than Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Okay, so this is how mine looks. Let's move on to Mars together. Okay, so in this one we wanted to do the same thing. We wanted to read through the questions and number the questions and then mark in our reading where the answers were. So you can see I also highlighted the word Mars. Okay, and here you can see where I did my highlighting of the interesting fact because there weren't too many words that I didn't know, but I did find something interesting, and it says that Mars has seasons like Earth, but the seasons on Mars last twice as long. And that just kind of blew my mind. I'm thinking to myself, why are the seasons twice as long? Can you imagine Winter for us is approximately 3 months. Can you imagine 6 months of winter? Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's keep going. So then the other part that we had to complete was the answer to the questions at the bottom. What do you think is the author's purpose of this text? So again, I'm going to start out with the author wants us to know about what? Mars. Very simple. Wants us to learn about Mars. Now, why is Mars called the red planet? Now, if we look up here where I'm circled the answer and wrote it down, it says the red planet because of its brownish red color of its surface. So let's write that down. Mars is called the red planet because of the brownish red surface, color of its surface. Okay. All right. And then lastly, the size of Mars. So this is interesting because in this one, they don't use the word size, but instead of largest, we see this word, smallest, another adjective. And in this one, it says Mars is the second smallest planet in the solar system behind Mercury. So that tells us a little bit about its size. Mars is the second smallest planet behind what? Mercury in our solar system. Okay, so there we go. And of course, this is up if you don't want to see it on the video. You can also just view it as a Google Slides and check your answers that way. Let's move on to our compare and contrast. So before in the instructional video, I explained to you that this is a Venn diagram, V-E-N-N, and it was designed by a man about 100 years ago, and we still use it today. And in this one, what we're doing is we are highlighting specific information about Earth, specific information about Mars, and in the center, we're writing what Earth and Mars share. So if we were in the classroom, I would gather help from you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pose the questions I would have posed in the classroom, and I'm hoping you will say them out loud, and then maybe I'll hear you and I'll be able to write it down. Okay, so let's talk about some of the important information that only has to do with Earth. So one of the things that I noticed is that this is the only planet with life. It is. It's the only planet with life. Okay? Our Earth is 70% liquid water. A lot of that is ocean, right? And how many days does it take the Earth to orbit the sun? Do you remember? Go back to the reading if you've forgotten. 365 days to orbit the sun. All right. So next step, now we'll go over here to Mars, and we'll write down some information that only has to do with Mars. So the first thing I want to talk about is the color. What color is Mars? Mars is a brownish red planet. Very good. Do you remember the specific type of weather that they mention in the article about Mars? It has huge dust storms that can last months. That sounds terrible. Okay, and we know that Mars also has seasons, but they last twice as long as Earth's. That is really intimidating. In this final part, we're going to discuss what Earth and Mars share. So these are the things that they have in common. There aren't too many things. I mean, we could say they're both a planet. They both orbit the sun. We could say that they are next to each other in our solar system. They are both inner planets. They are both on this side of the asteroid belt. We could say that they're both rock planets. None of that's really in the article that we read, but we do know that they both have seasons, don't they? Now, they last a different amount of time, but they both have seasons. Here's the other thing that I was thinking of, and I'm wondering if you thought of it. Think about the fact they both have nicknames that come from the color of their surface. The red planet and the blue planet. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed our compare and contrast of Earth and Mars, and you've learned a little bit of something new about our personal planet, and you've even learned a little something about a foreign alien planet of Mars.